Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update for the 55th time tonight on Tuesday, February 6th, 1:18 a.m. Mountain Time, 2018. You're looking at the sun, that burning fireball in the sky, which has an active region 2699 turning around the limb. This region is equatorial, which means in 4 or 5 days it will be directly Earth facing, and it is active, and we'll be discussing it momentarily. So let's just pause that so we have a little bit of bandwidth and roll with the punches. Snow forecast starting now through the rest of the week is the grand solar minimum polar vortex bend here, the last glacial maximum line right through the pink, and the polar vortex -20 area here up in the low snow zone. The low snow zone. Bitter cold and more accumulating snow. Happy first week of February! And that's a boom. I won't be doing any pops because of the singular complaint. So this will be a pop-free forecast, but he is very pop-worthy. Ha! Just kidding. -11, -11, -11. Kansas City, heads up. Grand solar minimum much? More bitter cold. Snow in the forecast. Rockford, Illinois, below zero temperatures continue to grip Rockford. That's Illinois. Are you annoyed? I am. Take a look at this nonsense. This is what they do in Iowa. And that is a grand solar minimum. Boom. 5 inches of snow, not even. Drive much? I don't think so. This is a recurring theme in the Midwest, and they better get a grip. I-35 southbound is closed north of Highway 30 at exit at Ames, Iowa, due to massive accident involving dozens of vehicles. I wonder if they got that cleared up. Heads up. Snow and ice warning issued for UK. Temperatures plunge. Snow and ice will create treacherous rush hour conditions, freezing, freezing. It's all getting colder than normal during this global warming thing as we descend down here, as the sun is shutting down, and it's freezing cold because it's so hot out. Snow and ice will create treacherous rush hour conditions this morning right now. There are the lows, -4, 5, 3, 2, 1, etc. Rural minimums. The gridders are out, and there are indications of quite a prolonged cold period. Yeah. 90,000 years. Colder than normal temperatures to hang around for most of the week. This is all of Canada, 8 degrees below zero in almost all locations. Or colder. Much colder. Let's talk about parts of Nunavut dealing with dangerous cold and dropping to 50 below with wind chills at -60. The weakened polar vortex is dropping deep south, away from the North Pole, above Hudson Bay here. And what you're going to see develop here is these white zones. These white zones are temperature anomalies in the -60, 50 and 60 range. So once you hit -40, it goes white. And this is the active track that's dropping that down in here. That is creating a thickening of the ice here in the Hudson Bay to epic amounts. Now, -50 over this ice is going to penetrate and cause this to be very thick. And the ice is probably going to be building up in this region here for the first time ever in multi-year ice and closing off these areas. So we might see a very difficult commerce for the first time this year in the summer because of this temperature pattern, which is epic. Monday, February 5th, dangerous cold has spread into Canada as core temperatures plummet to -50 in parts of Nunavut. Wind chills breaking -60, potentially reaching record-breaking territory. Here's the displaced Arctic air coming thousands of miles into the Hudson Bay for the glacial onset, which is where it sits, and it builds ice in this general region here where all the sea ice can build glacial ice. We'll get to that. As of Monday morning, the coldest temperatures reading in Nunavut was -50, making this the coldest temperature on record for February for the hamlet. Previous record back in 85 was minus 49.5. Keep in mind this does not factor in the wind chill. Dangerous cold in Nunavut. And that is freezing cold. I'll leave you links. Cold front brings snow to mountains in Taipei. This is rare. Rare snowfall to Yangmingshan Mountain in the outskirts. People took their cameras. What do you expect? Extreme weather leads to patchwork harvest with yields up to 70% down on last year across Australia. It's always going to be a big ask for the nation's grain crop. 70% on last year's harvest in some regions. That's the drop off. I'll leave you links. This is Australia, New South Wales. And if you don't know, not only is the grain harvest dropping, but so is the Dow Jones, almost 1,200 points today. I could have told you about it yesterday, but I forgot. The Nikkei had dropped 3% right before I made the video, and I was well aware that we were going to crash, and this isn't the end. The indications are that it will fall off till Wednesday. Global markets recover slightly, and then the big drop will be in the spring, and we'll be covering it, and we'll be telling you when that's going to happen. Just like the snow. Thermal anomaly on Mount Michael, possible strombolian activity, another awakening volcano. They had guidance way back in October. There was satellite imagery of this volcano erupting here. But they recently got confirmation with Landsat 8 on January 31st. There's a temperature anomaly here in the crater, confirming that this volcano has awoken. Strombolian style, and that's a heads up. New volcano in the fray. Certainly not the last. Fuego, Ducono, Reventador, Torrealba, Sabancaya, Ibico, on and on. Links. Let's look live. Here's Sakojirima. It's been erupting for 2 days continuously, quieting off, but still emitting ash. We have several other views. Sinabung puffing, Mayon clearly erupting here in the cloud cover and creating this weather, which is probably hellish and filled with sulfur dioxide. Popo was recently erupting with fountains of lava during the third making of this video, and this is the fourth. So we'll share you these videos of Popo erupting yesterday or today, which is now. So let's come over to Yuki Z and subscribe to her channel and give her a big heads up for putting this together. It's totally awesome. Boom! We love you. Solar Ham, we've got Sunspot Activity. There's active region 2699. Heads up. My God, I've already done this. It's like Groundhog Day again. And let's come over here and click on the spot and check out if it's any different than it was an hour ago or an hour before that. And here we can see there is some mixing. I think this is blue. Tell me if I'm going crazy, but this looks blue and this looks blue. Blue, blue, blue. Beta's going to gamma. We're going up, folks. This thing is developing. It appears to be developing. Right now we have 15% C flare, 1% M, 1% X. And this is not, we're not out of the woods yet. We have 4 days of watching this baby come across. And we are not going to get this to play. Oh, there she goes. Time to get prepared during Severe Weather Awareness Week. Down in Georgia, February 5th to 9th. Get to know your emergency plans and your preparedness in your area for the particular severe weather, because severe weather is going to be increasing in the form of hail, tornadoes, lightning. Learn the best plan about your community resources before the weather event strikes. Knowledge empowers people. If you take time to think it through what to do in advance, you'll be better prepared to take care of yourself and those around you until you can get help. And that's a heads up. Prepare for tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. And here's a great list, and I'll leave you links to this. Now, there is no mystery behind the mass graves of the Viking warriors in the UK. And even in this article where they claim to have the key, They do not discuss the sun and what happened in 875. As the Vikings were decimated because they had settled Greenland and Newfoundland during the medieval warm period here, we descended quickly into a grand solar minimum, which allowed them to starve to death. There were no more crops, crop failures, their animals froze to death. They had to get out of Dodge, so they went to the UK and they killed a bunch of people. And that's where the graves are. And just as history repeats itself, the same thing will happen again, mass migration. There is no mystery behind the mass grave of the Viking warriors found. It is the sun causing chaos in 873. And like all grand solar minimums, shortly after the initial descent, there's a volcanic uptick which causes it to drop off much quicker here. Usually 50 years in. And if we go see where we are in our descent, we are about 20 years in. So the next 20 years are going to be filled with larger earthquakes, major volcanic eruptions, and a rapid descent in global temperature. And prior to that, we'll probably have crop loss causing economic instability, which is happening now as we make the video. And will continue in the morning when the market opens. Let's talk about some nonsense. This is coming out of the Scripps Oceanographic Institute. It says the cooling sun may partially offset climate change by humans. It will not offset it. In fact, the cooling sun will send us into the ice age like it always has, time immemorial, every 100,000 years. And here we can see CO2 going off the chart and temperature up here in red not following it, because CO2 does not cause the temperature to go like this. These cycles that happen every 100,000 years are the Milankovitch orbital perturbations of the Earth in its orbit. And it's accentuated every 40,000 years by the obliquity, and every 26,000 years by the precession of the equinoxes. And we're looking at the 100,000 year eccentricity cycle. And there's always a major sea level rise and a drop off at the beginning of the 100,000 year cycle, back into maximum glaciation. And the glacial cycle lasts for 90,000 years. And here we are in our interstadial, and we're about to drop off like every other time into the next glacial period. And it just coincides with this grand solar minimum. What are the odds that you're alive? So these guys are claiming that they looked at a different star, not our star. And they claim that by looking at another star and looking at the grand solar minimum on that star, they say that our global warming is going to win over here. It's total nonsense. They should have looked at the historical sunspot data with total solar irradiance proxies, coupled with the historical data to know exactly what happened in the late 1800s with volcanoes, and back in 1800 in the Dalton minimum. And this is all related to the sun's output and our cosmogenic position. Guys, you have nothing to do with this. You are not changing the climate, and Scripps is certainly not a scientific institution. And that's a boom. I hope this actually parses and we can actually share this. Share this with like-minded people. Subscribe to our channel. Thank you for all the people who are supporting our Patreon and all of our work. We love each and every one of you. And that is a boon.